We live. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday Jane Live. We're at it again, and every next day seems to be a Thursday. The time just gets faster and faster and faster. And you know, when I account for what I've done in the week, it's like I haven't even started my Monday list by the time it's Friday. So I'm very intrigued today. We're honored to have Errol Weiner and Emmy with us to have a look at the actual scientific astrological forecast. In other words, what's already written in the stars, what's already embedded in there for 2023. I really suggest that you get your pen and paper out, because there's going to be a lot of juicy information. There always is. So I just want to really impress upon you guys, we're really honored to have Errol, who's given us some of his really valuable time. And those of you who don't know Errol, well, Errol is I would say but in any case, Findhorn astrologer at Findhorn. And those of you who don't know what Findhorn is, well, please Google. And so, yeah, we're really honored. And I don't want to keep Errol waiting too long. I've dialed in, so Errol is with us. Errol, greetings and welcome. It's fabulous to be online with you again.
Great, Dane. Thank you, and thank you to all the people who are listening. Let's hope we have an interesting interview talk tonight.
Yeah, let's see what comes through. It's over to you, Errol.
Great. All right. So one of the things that's interesting about New Year, you know, like when people always, when they greet you New Year, say Happy New Year, etc., etc. It's always interesting for us because for people who understand about how January the 1st became New Year, it's very interesting historically, because New Year was always celebrated on March the 21st, when the sun enters Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, of the planetary zodiac, and therefore is the new year of the planet, the planetary new year. And all the pagans and druids and tribes throughout history celebrated New Year at that time, because they knew astronomically, the sun entering Aries. But then Pope Gregory X didn't like the fact that all the pagans and other cultures were celebrating it on March the 21st. So he decided to change it and switch it, and he switched it to January the 1st as part of like the Christian impulse from December the 24th, 25th, the Christ, related to Christ, of course, to Jesus' birthday, and then he switched it to January the 1st, which of course is in the sign of Capricorn. The 10th sign of the zodiac, not the first sign of the zodiac. So actually, it's not the New Year is really not valid on January the 1st. It's only valid on March the 21st. But such is the way that it's happened, that people never questioned anything about that. And now we all celebrate it on January the 21st. January the 1st, which is a bit weird, but anyway, such is life.
It's just, yeah, it's become the chronological point. But having said that, the Chinese New Year started yesterday too. So anyway, the year is riddled with all sorts of different New Years at different times too. So
anyway. It's just interesting for people to know how historically things can be changed. And then no one actually knows about it, so everyone just carries on that particular day. Anyway, so besides that, it's 2023, and we're taking it to 2023, and after a very difficult, very tough, a very testing and complex 2022, actually 2020, 2021, 2022. The 3 years have been, as everyone knows, with COVID and everything else, very complex, very difficult. So now we're in 2023, and let's see how things are going to change in this year. So in the time that we've been sharing and through our newsletters and articles, as you know,
yes,
we shared that between 1975 and 2025 is a 50-year transition cycle between the outgoing age of Pisces and the incoming age of Aquarius. And so these transition cycles are always very difficult because one age and all that it represents is dying, and another age and all that it represents is coming into seed form, foundation form. And therefore that death and rebirth process, or dying and seeding process, occurs in the whole planet as an entity. The planet is a natural system, and then it occurs in humanity as a collective, and then it occurs in all the nations, obviously, and it occurs in every single human being, because the process is actually occurring from within. It's inside the consciousness of the human being, of humanity, of the nation, of the planet, that this death rebirth is occurring. And it's very difficult because that aspect of people, which has been active for the last 2,000 years in the Piscean age, and which no longer is functioning, is basically, you could call it, if you wanted to, corrupted, naturally corrupted because it's had its 2,000-year cycle, is dying, and that part is every human that represents that, consciously or unconsciously, is also dying. And a lot of that is unconscious, obviously. A lot of people are completely unconscious of why they're going through so much stress, so much trauma, as this process, as this energy within them is dying, and these facets of themselves and their life are dying. And then the people who are more conscious are trying to do their best to grasp what is dying in order to understand it and let it go and release it.
Yeah, Errol, I'm confirming what you're saying. You know, the people that are coming into the center, it's just a melting pot that you touch the lid and it pops off, and the emotions stream out and they get cleared so quickly. I've never known this before. I've never known it to be at this level. The intensity, the ability to clear. It's like you do sort of four reconnections with the client in one session, not like one at a time anymore. It's this one and that one and that one and that one. So the dying is definitely validated in my practice, what you're saying to me. And what I like about you saying as well, as the earth is dying, we dying inside too. So, this is the inner alchemy of us is shifting. It has to, chemically, electrically, magnetically, to purify, isn't it?
Yeah, psychologically, spiritually, etc. Health, and I mean, if you see that people, let's say for a good example, simple example, but good example, people that are eating much more healthily, are going organic, who are going for lighter foods, who are giving up meat, who are becoming vegetarians or vegans, and so on, who are making sure that the water is purified and are not drinking things like sugary drinks or red meat, etc., are moving into the new, because that is the new way that people will live in terms of diet and food, etc. And people who are not doing that, who are still living in the old way, heavy foods, meat, Coca-Cola, drinking too much, smoking cigarettes, and so on, are part of the dying process. Their physical bodies are being fed old, corrupted food, and the people who are more conscious are feeding their bodies with lighter food, with organic food, with healthier food. So that's a small example of when Christ talks in the Bible about the sheep and the goats shall be separated at the end of the age. The sheep are people, obviously, who don't think, who don't want to think, who don't want to change, and are just following old patterns which are self-destructive. And the goats are people who are changing, who are wishing to change, who are following new patterns, and are eating healthily, etc. So that's just a small example on the physical level. So that's also happening emotionally, it's also happening psychologically, it's also happening spiritually, etc. So you can see that sheep and goats sort of analogy from the Christ, whose predicted this would happen at the end of the age, meaning at the end of the Piscean age, which is now. But everyone has a choice. I mean, no one can say, I can't eat healthy food because it's not available. It is available. No one can say, I can't get organic food as much as possible because it's available. And so on and so on. So the choice is not, I can't do this because it isn't available. It is available. And almost everything which represents the foundation of the new age of Aquarius is available now. So people can get it if they want to. And if they don't, then they suffer, unfortunately and sadly and tragically, suffer the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with COVID, with the reactions to COVID, the same with reactions to the vaccines. With the vaccines, like people were warned by many aware, many conscious, many intelligent, deep thinking people about the vaccine situation. And many people didn't listen for various reasons, sometimes very practical, but nevertheless. And now, of course, people are getting heart attacks and heart stoppages all over the world. Tens of thousands of people, many more than tens of thousands of people are passing on from heart attacks and heart stoppages because the spike protein has damaged the heart muscles, which people warned about. Even Dr. Robert Malone warned about it, even though he was one of the inventors of that vaccine.
There was that movie, Errol. There was that movie with animated characters. I just can't think of it, but in 2007, there was a movie. I just can't think of the name. I've been trying to think of it all day, where it shows the words are there. They show the city. They show everything. 2007. It was already.
Exactly, yes.
Anyhow, the thing is that Errol, it's not for anyone to judge. It's or react. People made their choices, which I'm agreeing with you completely, but the consequences are each individual's responsibility. And this is the main point: is nobody can do this for you. There's catalysts. Yes, you can come see me, come see you, whatever. Get the knowledge, make more informed decisions. You can eat clean and all that. But you got to do the work yourself, and what you've got to do is different to somebody else, is different to another person too.
Exactly, yes. And one of the main, if you take for instance spirituality, as in terms of the sheep and the goats, or the age of Pisces, or the age of Aquarius, you can put it into this context, which is a very important context, and that fits into the food, that fits into the vaccines, that fits into almost everything from A to Z. In the age of Pisces, the way the religions functioned, and even in a sense spirituality functioned to a good degree, was that you looked outside yourself for the answers.
Yes, exactly.
And you looked to Jesus, you looked to Muhammad, you looked to Krishna, you looked to the Buddha, wherever you looked to your guru, you looked outside to get the answers.
That's it.
And as a consequence, you didn't take responsibility to get the answers from within yourself, from your own soul. In the spirituality of Aquarius, you have to give up the external teachers, the external reliance, the external projection of your own divinity, and you have to take responsibility to do the inner work, which enables you to get in contact with your soul, with your higher self, who knows everything and who's closer to you than your skin. You don't have to fly to India to see your soul. Your soul is here now all the time. This is real. This is like not a cliche. This is like the reality. But you have to do the inner work. You have to learn to meditate. You have to contemplate. You have to watch your dreams. You have to have a dream book so you can put down your dreams, interpret symbols. That way your soul can get through to you anything that you need to know.
Errol, we need to breathe.
And you need to breathe properly, etc.
This is the biggest crux of it all. People aren't breathing. So if you haven't taken a proper breath and you haven't let out all the toxins, you're definitely on the back foot.
Exactly. So it's got to do with all that. Meditation, breathing, contemplation, inner work, watching your dreams, learning to understand symbols and interpret symbols. This is all inner work, inner work. And one aspect of the age of Aquarius, which is, as you say, it's been seeded, but has already been seeded since 1962. So it's not that we're seeding it now, it's since 1962. Is that the main criteria for being living correctly in the age of Aquarius, which it means also now, is that you create a plus-minus balance between your inner spiritual work and your outer material work, your inner spiritual life and your outer material life. And each person, as you say, will be slightly different between this percentage and that percentage, but you do your best to create a balance between these two worlds. And your inner life provides your connection with your soul, with your higher self, that who knows everything about us, all our past lives, our present life, what our needs are, even our future lives. And the soul has a responsibility to guide us as our central and main guiding teacher, who Christians call the Holy Spirit. But the Holy Spirit just means the soul, that's all it means. It's a funny sort of word to give, Holy Spirit. But you can't call it the soul. The Indians call it Atma. The Russians call it Dusha. The Japanese call it Tamashi. The Italians call it the Anima. So, all the different nations' cultures have names for this. Nefesh, the Jews call it Nefesh. So, getting in contact with the soul is inner work, and inner work must be done on a constant basis. It's our inner food. So the same way as we eat material food, and if we didn't, we'd basically die. If we don't do our inner work, eat our spiritual food, then we die inwardly.
Correct,
and
exactly.
That is absolutely important, because no matter what the question is, for instance, let's take, for instance, the vaccines, because it's an important issue, because that represents all issues.
Yeah.
If someone would have not been sure about whether the vaccines are safe or not, or whether they've been conned or not, and it was very difficult and very confusing for people at times, because no one knew what was going on, what was truthful, what wasn't. What you do is you learn to go to your soul, to your higher self, and telepathically you ask the question simply, for example, are the vaccines safe? And if you get the answer yes, you get vaccinated. And if you get the answer no, you don't get vaccinated. You first obey your soul. You first obey the will of your soul, which is your higher will, your Christ will. And then you know that the answer is coming from absolutely clear space, and you obey it. That's what it means, obeying the will of God, obeying the will of the soul. You always put that first, because it knows, it doesn't believe. And that's for everything from A to Z. So what I'm just sharing is that what we are now in is, 2003, 2004, 2005, the last 3 years of the transition cycle between Pisces and Aquarius.
Right. Okay.
And in the process of those 3 years, everything is dying much more quickly and in a much more intensified fashion, and a much more confusing fashion for people, and for many people also a much more scary fashion, as they see things collapsing and not working. In South Africa, we have a nice example of load shedding, which is one form of a national dying. The old energy system of the world, therefore of all the nations of humanity, of ourselves, is dying, because it's basically fossil fuel, gas, oil, which pollutes the planet, pollutes the earth, pollutes humans, pollutes the atmosphere. It's part of Pisces. And a new type of energy, sustainable, renewable energy, is coming into the world: solar power, wind power, thermal power, and eventually nuclear fusion power, which represents the new. So South Africa is undergoing a death process of the old energy system, and preparing to introduce over the next who knows how many years the new energy system.
And I think, it's a worldwide death.
Yes, worldwide. It's happening all over the place.
We've got people all over listening to us, So everybody's experiencing it, which is a celebration.
Europe is suffering much worse than South Africa. Europeans are really suffering, because they were not prepared for the change taking place so quickly. And in Britain, like a lot of people, poor people, lower middle class people, having to choose. Do you use the energy you need to heat your home, or do you eat? People have to choose between eating and how much energy they use. So, it's all happening. So that's one aspect of the old dying, and the new being born, and very difficult for everyone as we have to go to that transition. And of course, you check things, and we bought a little. We were actually given a gift of a little gas unit, a lovely little gas unit, and which is extremely inexpensive. And so whenever we have load shedding and we have to cook our food, we just use our little gas unit. And we cook our food, and we save money on electricity at the same time, if you see what I mean.
Of course.
So it's all happened like that. So people have to understand the death process and the new seeding foundation process, and they have to learn to go with the flow, because you can go crazy if you don't learn
Absolutely.
to go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn to go with it. You have to accept that. You have to understand what's happening. I mean, I know that Cyril Ramaphosa in one of his speeches a while back said, sincerely by the way, that within 2 years South Africa would have 12,000 megawatts of solar energy, extra solar energy.
Mm-hmm.
As they're building two huge solar energy plants in South Africa, which will produce a lot of solar energy. In fact, the three countries which have the biggest solar energy plants by far are Morocco, Tunisia, and one now being built in Egypt. All being built by the Chinese, by the way. And they are the biggest sort of solar energy parts of the world. And South Africa, which has 8 months or so sun, is doing the same and should do the same.
Well, they are busy. They are busy looking at Cape Town and that right now. So, yeah. It's rebuilding, repatterning, rebuilding. Which is evolution, and we need to welcome this and be in the positive state of mind. Because it's so easy to slip back. And I noticed this year, it's quite easy for people to slip back into the same old pattern of 2020. I'm absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Almost wishing it on the world. Instead of, they wish it on the world again. Instead of standing back and saying, well, what does it mean to me? Like you said, going internal, getting your answers. Where do I need to shift? I see the world shifting. I see there's chaos, and me too. What do I specifically need to do?
Yeah, and that's as I said, 50% of that energy should be given to one's inner life, with joy, with excitement, with adventure, not as a sense of sort of self-sacrifice or kind of, do I have to do meditation? Oh, do I have to do inner work? I really want to look at my smartphone. I've got no time to meditate. I mean, I've heard people make the most incredible excuses for not doing their inner work. And the main thing that's now preventing it, the biggest problem and a big problem, is smartphones. Because people are getting completely addicted to their smartphones.
Errol, like never before. They can't even sit in a consultation with me without being on their phone. They come to me, pay me, and they sit on their phone. And I just said, I don't get it. I said, I don't get this. I said, I'm not going to repeat the dosage. I'm not going to. I've told you what to take. And also the people that accompany them, let's say, are on their phones. Well, I send them out because I don't want all these wavelengths and these frequencies blocking what I'm doing. I need a clean field. I can't have all this. It's unbelievable.
When people come to see me, my smartphones are banned. They're not allowed to touch
100%.
For 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's it. And parents should ban smartphones in their tables when the family are eating.
Ooh.
They should say, sorry, no smartphones allowed at the table while we're eating. Sorry, don't care, not interested. That's it. That's the law.
But we should ban it ourselves too, because I'm guilty as well. When I'm eating, my phone should be banned as well.
Yeah, but we all have to discipline ourselves.
We do.
I mean, self-discipline is part of inner work. Part of inner work is self-discipline.
Definitely.
And self-discipline is fantastic. I mean, self-discipline is probably one of the most important facets of living correctly on the earth. You've got to do self-discipline. If you don't do self-discipline, you're in big trouble. And you've got to teach your children and your teenage children self-discipline, and teach it in a way that self-discipline is a fantastic, joyful, wonderful, creative activity. It's not self-sacrifice. It's self-enhancement, not self-sacrifice. Anyway, that's just the thing I was sharing with people. So Because we can share as much as possible about what's happening collectively, what's happening in terms of energy, etc., etc. But if people don't do anything about it in their own personal lives, nothing is going to change for people. And they'll go through the same chaos they've been going through over the last who knows how many years. So, are you there?
I'm here. I'm listening. We're all hanging on to every word you're saying.
Good. Lovely. So, yeah, here's a little bit what's happening now so people can understand how the changes are occurring without in any way putting aside those personal needs that people have to, that people have to change their life radically, not superficially. I mean, so many people who are changing their life superficially and nothing is changing for them because they think they can walk around the periphery and dip their little toes in to the new life and then come out and walk around a little bit more and dip their little toes in and do this and do that. It's no use just saying, I'm going to be a vegan. I'm going to be a vegetarian. I'm going to do reflexology. I'm going to whatever, make some nice jewelry. You've got to change your life radically and focus your energy and think deeply about how you're going to change your life radically. Because that is absolutely essential to be able to pass through this death process, not get attached to it, and start to seed and to create the foundation in your own personal life or partnership life and family life for living in the age of Aquarius, which means living a life of balanced spirit and matter, balanced inner life, outer life, balanced feminine energy, masculine energy, balanced receptivity and activity, and balanced meditation and action. All the polarity, yin yang, it's all there. The Chinese have known that for thousands of years.
Haven't they?
As have the Indians. So that's the important thing. So what's happening now is that today is the final day of the sun moving through Capricorn. So the sun moves through each sign of the zodiac for minus plus 30 days, which is the month in the zodiacal month of the different signs of the zodiac, which is part of the astrological year. Which, as I said, starts in March 21st when the sun moves into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. And now the sun's moving to the 10th sign, which is Capricorn. And tomorrow the sun moves into Aquarius, the 11th sign. So what's happening at the moment is that when we talked about the transition cycle between Pisces and Aquarius, between death and rebirth, between the ending completion of something and a new beginning and seeding of something else, the new. So the sun moves into Aquarius tomorrow. As the sun moves into a new sign, what happens is that the energy of that sign starts coming into the energy field, the energy web of our planet and all the kingdoms of the planet. Because our planet is made up of 7 kingdoms, or 7 collective chakras, of which humanity is the fourth kingdom. So you've got the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom, and then 3 superhuman kingdoms. And as the energy comes in, Aquarius energy comes into the energy grid of the earth, it also comes into the energy grid of humanity. And it also comes into the energy grid of every individual, whether they're conscious or unconscious. So, individuals' consciousness determines everything they receive, everything they embody, everything they transform, everything they distribute or release or share. Your state of consciousness determines that. If you're unconscious, well, you're unconscious. If you're conscious, you're conscious. But conscious, it doesn't mean because you're conscious that you're conscious. If you're conscious to a certain degree. And you have to increase your consciousness, your conscious awareness, your knowledge, your understanding, and so on an ongoing basis. And one day you'll become like the Buddha or the Christ, fully enlightened. But the process of moving from consciousness to more consciousness and more consciousness and more consciousness until you reach that stage is an ongoing process over many lifetimes.
Exactly. It's not it's a journey. It's not a destination.
Exactly. And it's also something which people have to be aware of, because a lot of people get stuck. They wake up They become more conscious. They do this, they do that, which is part of that. And then they stop. They think, well, that's it for the rest of this lifetime. I'm now conscious and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. That's enough. Mm-hmm. Not enough. It's like if you're in primary school, you then go into high school and you go to different classes in high school. Yeah. And then in high school, you leave high school, you go to university, you go to different classes of university, and one day you become qualified in something, and then you go and you start doing that. So it's an ongoing process. And if people stop and do not keep evolving, keep learning, keep wanting to know more, keep deepening their inner work, keep being more creative and service-oriented, which is very important, then what happens is that their soul realizes that the person is not changing and moving. The soul does its best to get the individual to move and to change in ways which are relatively constructive. And then if still nothing happens, then the soul smacks the person on the head or kicks them up the arse.
This is it.
And to force them to move. And that's a process we call pain and suffering. And so pain and suffering are the way the soul works to push humanity or to push people to move, to change, to evolve, to grow, and so on. So if people want to avoid pain and suffering, they better move and they better evolve and they better change, they better want to know more, etc., etc. So the sun moves into Aquarius tomorrow, and the energy of Aquarius, which of course represents also the new age of Aquarius, starts coming into the planet and into humanity and into individuals. So people need to be aware and conscious because they'll start to pick up the energy of the inner levels, and or through meditation and or through their dreams and through synchronistic events like meeting people, picking up the right book, and so on and so on and so on. Then on the 21st, we have the new moon of Aquarius. So every month there's a new moon cycle when the sun and the moon are in the same degree, in the same sign. So this new moon cycle is occurring in the very, very beginning of Aquarius because the sun moves into Aquarius tomorrow, and then on Saturday you have the new moon of Aquarius. New moon cycles are seeding cycles. That's when the energy of the sign is seeded in people's consciousness.
Yes.
And in people's lives. So if people are conscious and aware, they'll feel a seeding energy coming in, which is the energy, the seeding energy of Aquarius. And then that takes 2 weeks till the full moon of Aquarius, 2 weeks later, when that seeding energy flowers. So you get the new moon seeding, full moon flowering. And that takes place 12 times a year. Every month you have the new moon in a sign and then the full moon. And people will eventually learn how to work with the seeding energy, and then 2 weeks later, the full sun moon cycle, which is the flowering energy of Aquarius. Then, so that's big enough in itself, 20th, and then 20th. So one impact of Aquarius tomorrow. Second impact, seeding impact of Aquarius on Saturday. Then, on Sunday, two big events occur. First of all, the planets Venus and Saturn make exact conjunction in Aquarius.
Yep.
That's a very important conjunction because Saturn is a planet of seriousness, of commitment, of dedication, of organization, of self-discipline, of seriousness in the sense that you take things and of maturity, of wisdom, of commitment. These are all the biggest words you can use when you're talking about life. That's Saturn. If Saturn comes conjunct Venus, and Venus represents two things in astrology. On the one hand, at the human level, it represents women. So, women come from Venus, men come from Mars. So this is going to affect women very dramatically.
Yeah.
So women are going to be asked, are going to be pushed, are going to be moved into positions of power and responsibility. Saturn is also responsibility. Into positions of power and responsibility, where women have to start leading the way in a dedicated, committed, mature, responsible, well-organized way. That's what Saturn Venus represents. And this will happen all over the planet to women everywhere, maybe even of all ages. So women should be ready for that. And it means that women are going to be asked to take positions of power and responsibility in all fields, and to step into that position of responsibility and power and grow up, mature, wise up, because that's also Saturn, and no longer do any, move beyond superficiality into absolute commitment.
Yeah.
In a serious sense. Doesn't mean that, there's no humor, there's no laughter, there's no fun, there's no play. That's part of the game too. But that's what Saturn represents. Then, at the same time on Sunday, the planet Uranus, which has been in retrograde motion for quite a while now, when retrograde means it's seemingly going backwards. It's operating on the inner planes, on the mental planes, not on the physical plane. On Sunday, Uranus goes forward. It moves forward in Taurus. Now, Taurus is another earth sign, like Capricorn. So that also has to do with materialization of energy, spirit coming into matter, and starting to manifest Aquarius energies in the physical world, on the physical plane, in physical things that you do. And that's because of Uranus, which is the planet which rules Aquarius, happens very quickly and out of the blue. So it comes through very quickly out of the blue. It's almost like quick inspiration, quick revelation, quick impacts that move people. It's a bit like if everyone's on the chessboard at the moment, and it's been there in a particular position for quite a while. The moment these impacts happen, 20th, 21st, 22nd, going at 23rd, what happens is that everyone starts to be shifted onto the next position of the chessboard.
Yeah.
And no matter how people may think they're ready for that, it's actually quite a shock when suddenly you've been sitting in one position of the chessboard for a certain amount of time, you've got used to it, and then you moved on to the next position of the chessboard, and the whole game changes. The whole chessboard game now is changed. You're now moved to that position, and that other person is moving to that position, and that other person is moving to that position, and groups are being moved into different positions, and the whole thing changes. If we can't see it, of course, because only if we are deep in space and we have superhuman consciousness could we see all these tens of millions, many hundreds of millions of people shifting into the new position of the chessboard. All we can do is just deal with it ourselves, our partnerships, our families, our groups, our networks, and see how that shift is taking place.
And be centered. Be centered in the space. This is useful because you don't want to lose your center point.
Yes, and you've got to be. Well, that's what's good about the Saturn thing, because Saturn stabilizes you.
Good.
Saturn secures you.
All right.
It's like so that's taking place. So you shifted on to the next stage of the board very quickly with the Uranus moving forward.
Yes.
And then because Saturn and Venus are in conjunction, you also can stabilize and secure your position in the board very quickly.
Good.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. So that's by committing yourself to the position on the board that you've been moved into. It's like you commit yourself to that. You commit yourself to that work. This is my work. This is what I've come to do. This is my unique contribution towards the beginning, the seeding of the new age of Aquarius, being a water carrier, because the symbol of Aquarius are spiritual water carriers. Water not being water, but water being spiritual water, waters of life. So you shifted onto the board as a water carrier, and that's what you have to do wherever you are in the world, whatever country, whatever city, whatever town, whatever location, whatever work you're doing. That's your responsibility, and do it. And because Aquarius is a group sign, Aquarius energy always works in small group formation, not big organizations, not institutions, but in small group formation. I always say that an Aquarian group, the minimum number of an Aquarian group is 3, and the maximum number is 12. So you've got to have at least 2 other people you're working with in one way or other to create an Aquarius channel for group energy. And that group, that seed group of 3 people or so, can then slowly evolve and expand into 5, 7, 9, 12 eventually. People should do that wherever they are. They should think, how do I form an Aquarius seed group of 3 people or more, and evolve it and expand it slowly and develop it slowly and the group commits itself to the work. So all the individuals commit themselves to the work, but so does the group commit itself to the work. And that group must be totally important for people. So, for instance, our group meets on Monday between 2 until 5. We do our work in 3 hours. And we all bring beautiful vegan food, and we have fantastic food, and we all share the food, and we all make the food, and we all clean up, and we all lay a table. So it's a group situation. And as we said to people, when you come into this group on a Monday, that's the most important thing. You put everything aside. If you have to get a babysitter on Monday, get a babysitter.
Yeah.
If you have to cancel a meeting because your group's on Monday, you cancel the meeting. You make it on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday. You don't interfere with the group. Because if you don't commit yourself to the group can't develop group consciousness, group energy, group wisdom, group service, and the group eventually breaks up because there's no commitment. You must commit yourself to the group. So the Saturn Venus conjunction in Aquarius is not just saying personal responsibility, personal commitment, but group commitment and group responsibility in a small group, wherever you are. And you'll see as the Saturn-Venus conjunction occurs with Uranus that all around the world, thousands and thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of small groups when you start forming everywhere, cities, towns, areas, and start developing group energy. And if you could see the planets from above, the network of light, you'd suddenly see these small dots of light, which make up the network of light around the planet, expanding as they become group lights, not just individual lights, but group lights. And a group can do far more than an individual.
Yeah.
It's far more powerful than an individual. It's far more effective than an individual. You know? So, for instance, if Amy and myself make ourselves a beautiful meal, a lovely vegan vegetarian meal, we really enjoy it. But when we got 6, 7, 8, 10 of us here in our group, we get 10 different dishes of beautiful vegan food. That's a good example of how a group is much more effective in eating delicious food than simply 1 or 2 people. You see what I mean?
I think you're getting a potentiation of the energy as well, you know?
Yeah.
You can,
spiritually, communication, hugging.
Yes.
Better to hug 10 people than to hug 2 people.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So, and that's an evolutionary process. So groups, in Aquarian age, what we learn to do is to evolve with groups, not simply as individuals. In the Pisces age, we basically evolved as individuals. The path was more individually based,
yes,
personally based. But in the Aquarius, it's group based. It's group conscious. It's group evolution. It's group learning. It's group delicious food. It's group communication. It's group psychology. It's group alignment to the group soul, because every group has a group soul, which is much more in itself potent than an individual soul, in that sense of inspiration and work. So once Uranus moves forward, what happens is something very important. A whole number of planets over the last year has been in what's called retrograde motion. When a planet is retrograde, it means its energy is functioning either on the mental plane or the astral planes, which are both invisible, obviously, and are much more subtle and difficult to comprehend because our energy is largely focused in the physical world and not in the astral, emotional world or the mental world. But when planets are retrograde, they're operating basically at the mental and or astral level. So people might have dreams or get imprints, for example, when they're retrograde. But what's happening is that the imprints on the mental plane or the astral plane, not on the physical plane. It doesn't manifest physically, which can be quite frustrating. When all the planets move forward, and when Uranus moves forward on Sunday, this will be now all the planets are moving forward. No planets are retrograde.
Gee whiz.
Which means all the energy coming into the physical plane very quickly.
Wow.
Out of the blue, very quickly. And that's going to be a big shock because suddenly energy that's been moving, evolving, preparing on the mental plane and the astral plane suddenly comes into the physical plane and impacts into the physical world, impacts into our physical bodies, impacts into the physical, political, economic situation, energy situation, etc., of the world, and everything begins to hit into the physical plane and transform the physical plane and move through into the physical plane, physical activity, which before has been on the mental astral plane. So when all planets are moving forward, which is very unusual, all planets have been moving forward, not one planet retrograde, because Mars went forward on the 12th of January, and Mercury went forward on the 18th of January, Uranus goes forward on the 22nd of January, and now all the planets are moving forward. So people should prepare for like big impacts coming into the physical world. And when that happens, the danger is you can become very destabilized. Yeah. Because as it hits into the physical world, things begin to change in the physical world, in your physical life. And therefore, the danger is that you become destabilized and not grounded in a paradoxical sense. But because Saturn and Venus are making conjunction in Aquarius, it means that if people commit themselves to what must be done, if people commit themselves to the work, if people commit themselves to what they have to do, that automatically stabilizes people. Amazing. Commitment and self-discipline stabilizes people. If you haven't got commitment, and you haven't got dedication, and you haven't got self-discipline, then you become destabilized. It's a paradox. You see the paradox? Yes. If you haven't got self-discipline, you become destabilized. And then you get diseased because you get confused, you get fearful, you get insecure. If you have got self-discipline and commitment, then you stabilize yourself. So that's all this is happening almost at the same time. And that will evolve from then on. That energy starts to evolve through the Aquarius cycle, which ends on February the 19th, when the sun enters Pisces. And then eventually that ends in March the 20th, and March the 21st, the sun enters Aries, the sun zodiac. Now, the other big change is coming is this. Pluto will enter Aquarius on the 23rd, 24th of March. So Pluto has been going through Capricorn since 2008. It takes basically about 16 years to go through the sign of Capricorn. 2008, when Pluto entered Capricorn, all the astrologers predicted a financial meltdown because Capricorn governs economics and finances and so on. And exactly in September, when Pluto entered Capricorn, 2008, all astrologers predicted there would be a financial meltdown, and there was, of course, the financial meltdown. And we haven't come out of the financial meltdown. Governments try and act as if we've come out of it. We haven't come out of it. The repercussions of that meltdown are self-evident everywhere. And the world economy is a shambles. I mean, I think it's $250 trillion in debt, the world economy. $250 trillion debt in the world economy, of which $32 trillion is American debt. And that debt has to be paid at some time. It has to be neutralized, and it can't be neutralized. It's too much. It's too big, the debt. So the economic collapse can happen any particular moment. It can happen.
Oops, I think we've just lost Errol. I'll just phone him again. Yeah, we're back.
All right, we're back. So if any financial collapse is going to happen, it will happen when Pluto leaves Capricorn on March 22nd, 23rd, and moves into Aquarius.
Okay.
Then there's going to be another big impact of movement from Capricorn to Aquarius, which means a sort of peak collapse of the old economic and political system and social system that we understand and have understood for a long time, and a movement into a new type of political and economic and social system when Pluto moves into Aquarius around about that time. Once again, pioneers of Aquarius, the water carriers, have to initiate that new system. And that new system has to be based upon what's called self-government and self-economics. People have to govern themselves. Whether you're an individual, a couple, a family, a group, a community, you start governing yourself.
I think so.
You don't look out for the government to save you.
Or anyone.
You govern yourself. Or anyone.
I think you know what's been coming up for me a lot is there's no real such thing as codependency.
Yeah.
We need to do the self-responsibility, self-actualization, no one's going to do it for you.
Exactly. And people have to do it. Of course, everything starts with the individual, which is common sense. And then the individual does that. And then if you're in a partnership, obviously the partnership also has to do that because it's two individuals. And then obviously if you're a family, or if you start one of these groups, these Aquarius core groups, which we call them, or C groups, the group itself becomes a group of self-independent, which policies themselves. The group decides the policies, because politics is policies. The policies that are going to govern their life, govern them as individuals and as a couple and as a group. The group does it. They don't wait for governments to start telling them what they can do or what they should do or what they shouldn't do. And then you got a new economic system which has to develop, which is you start creating your own economic system and don't rely upon the old capitalistic imposed economic system, which tells you how to live or even how to make money. One of the aspects of COVID, which was very good, which is it destroyed the old economy.
Yeah.
Huge numbers, tens of millions, and many more people are out of work from the old economy. One good thing about it is many people are working from home now. So that's one good manifestation of what happened with COVID and lockdowns. The other manifestation, there's all kinds of different manifestations occurring. But one of the things that's happening with all the people working from home is that what they discovered by the forced process of COVID and lockdowns was that you don't need so much. You can live simply. You don't need to make so much money to buy things you don't need. You can make less money and buy things that you only need. And a lot of people just discovered that by mistake. Like they said, I'm not making as much money as I used to make with my conventional work. What am I going to do? Well, you live simply. That's what you do. You don't buy what you don't need. You don't buy a Mercedes-Benz if you can only afford a Toyota. You don't go and buy things that you don't go on holiday and spend a fortune when you can have your own holiday in some different way and spend a quarter of the money you're going to spend on an expensive holiday. So everyone has to. The new economy will be an economic system which says live simply, so that others can simply live simple and live simply and joyfully. In other words, don't live simply as a form of self-sacrifice. It's like it's joyful to live simply. It's creative to live simply. It's more fun to live simply. You're more happy. You're more
happy. Exactly.
Yeah, of course. I mean, every psychologist that you speak to, you can speak to any psychologist or psychiatrist and say to them, who are the most unhappy people that come to see you? The rich. Always I'll tell you the same story. The rich, they're the most unhappy people you'll ever meet. They're full of traumas and full of conflicts and full of addictions and full of, they messed up their life. They thought, like Moby was on this wonderful YouTube video last night. You know, Moby the musician.
Yeah.
And he at one time was born in a very, very poor environment in America. I mean, they were really poor of the poor. Then he became a famous musician. He became a multi-millionaire. He had everything he wanted. And all he thought about was committing suicide. He wanted to commit suicide the whole time. He said he's never been so unhappy in his life as when he became rich. And he gave it all up. And now he's come back to living a sort of relatively normal kind of easygoing life, only with his needs, not his wants. And he said much, much happier, much more content. Doesn't feel like committing suicide anymore. But this is as Moby said, he said most billionaires that he meets are the most unhappy people he meets.
Sure.
So this concept, which we've been brought up with and brainwashed with, that the more money you make and the bigger house you get and the bigger car you get, etc., is going to make you happier. It's complete, utter illusion and total nonsense. It never has worked and it never is going to work. It can't work. You have to live simply according to your means, joyfully, creatively, in service, as much as possible, of other people, which is exactly what the Christ taught. That's all that the Christ was teaching, basically, in the Buddha. That then we do that, we create a balance between our spiritual, material life, inner life, and outer life, and that is the new economy for the age of Aquarius. It's that simple, actually. That's why it's actually not complex. It's quite simple. But you have to work. I mean, people have to think deeply. What does it mean? How do I do it? What do I give up? What don't I give up? What do I need? What do I want? Give up want. You know, Buddha said, all desire leads to suffering.
Correct.
So you don't have desires, you just have needs, and you see what your needs are, and you fulfill your needs. And that might be, you know, you might have bigger needs than someone else, which is fine. If you need a car, you've got to have a car. Now, we don't have a car because we don't need a car. Wherever we go, we just take a taxi, you know?
Yeah.
And it costs us like, 30 Rand, 40 Rand, 50 Rand, wherever we go. You don't have to worry about buying a car. You don't have to worry about insurance. You don't have to worry about the car having an accident and taking to the garage costing a fortune. You don't have to worry about petrol. And you have good conversations with the taxi drivers. And we do. We have great conversations. The taxi drivers always love us afterwards. And you have fun. We don't need a car. How many people don't need a car? They can take taxis, but they have a car. Why? Because society says you must have a car, else, I don't know what else. So, in other words, as Pluto moves in out of Capricorn into Aquarius, the old world will start to fall apart very, very quickly. This will start collapsing and melting down very, very quickly. And that's part of the death process. And that's going to shock people. If people move into Aquarius, as Pluto moves into Aquarius, and start to create their own political system, their own economic system, based upon their own intelligence, their own decisions, and do it in a joyful, creative, content fashion, adventurous fashion. I always say it must be an adventurous process. It's like adventure. It's an adventurous process. You know, it's an adventure. It's like, this is a great adventure. I'm going to create my own economic system, decide what I need, what I don't need, purchase what I want, you know, is appropriate, inappropriate, or not purchase. You know, when my mother passed on, and she was a lovely person, she had 50 pairs of shoes. What does a woman need 50 pairs of shoes for? I don't know. And thank God when she passed on, we gave them all to black people. So, like, they had great fun as we gave away her shoes and her bags and her clothes to all manner of African people who were very happy about it. But, you know, these things are unnecessary. They're just brainwashing. So that's the next stage. Okay. And this is so you can see this huge change that's taking place between the old age of Pisces, the new age of Aquarius, an age of unconsciousness versus an age of consciousness, an age of irresponsibility versus an age of responsibility, an age of spirit matter balance living versus the age of polarized spirit, you know, religious material living. Because in the Piscean age we had monasteries with monks, with nuns, the Catholic Church on the one side, and then on the other side you had untold greed and avariciousness on the other side of the equation. Complete, you know, the two fish swimming in opposite directions. The symbol of Pisces. The symbol of Aquarius is actually two streams of fire coming from space into the earth alongside one another. They're coming in cooperation and co-creation down to the earth alongside one another. They're not opposing one another. They're fully in cooperation and co-creation with one another. Yeah. There's a difference between Pisces and Aquarius. It's a massive difference. And as Pluto moves into Aquarius, March 23rd, 24th, and out of Capricorn, that particular impact of the cutting of the old from the new will happen very, very quickly. And that's what when Christ said, towards the end of the age, the sheep and the goats shall be separated. Basically, he's talking about this time. He's talking about people. They have to make this choice. I'm either going to remain being a sheep, or I'm going to become a goat. That's it. There's only two choices. With everything,
When you say very quickly, you're saying between now and 2025. Is that correct?
Between now and 2025, but I think what's happening because of the Sun settling Venus conjunction Aquarius.
This thing now.
Yes. Now and then like Pluto moving into Aquarius. That 2023 is the kind of the impact turning point between the separation of the two worlds.
All right.
Although you are right that impact will unfold through 2023, 224, and 225.
Okay.
But it will impact now this year. So people must make those choices and make them in a positive, joyful way, not in a as I said, in a sense of they giving up something. You see, people always see that when they give up something they don't need, it's a painful process of giving up something. It's not a painful process. It should be a joyful process. What do I bloody need this shit for? I don't need it. So giving it up is a pleasure.
100%.
Pain. Of course, the problem with that comes that when you're in a relationship with a husband or wife or children or friends or whatever, you are doing something which they may not agree with. And so you've got a battle on your hands. You've got a conflict on your hands. But you must stick to your guns. Because I always say to people, your responsibility as a soul is to do what you've come to do as a soul. And if you do that, you then help your wife, partner, children, friends, because they haven't got enough courage to do it or enough wisdom to do it. You've got the wisdom and courage to do it. So do it. Initially, they will react negatively to you. It always happens. Initially, they will react negatively. What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Blah, blah, blah. But if you keep doing it, they'll soon follow you. They'll soon say, oh, that's unbelievable. She's a changed person. He's a changed person, etc. And then suddenly they start to ask, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How do I do it? And before you know it, they're following you. But you've got to lead the way. You've got to be a pioneer.
Sure.
So, whenever a new age starts, the pioneer steps forward. 2,000 years ago, Jesus and his disciples and the rest of the gang stood forward. 2,000 years ago, humanity was pretty ignorant. And they put him on a cross because they didn't like the fact that he was a pioneer. These days you can be a pioneer and we won't be put on the cross, thank God.
Or burnt at the stake.
They put you on a psychological stake, which they're doing to Jordan Peterson now in Canada, as you can see. The Canadian Psychological Institute has told him he has to be re-educated because he's not saying things the way he should say things. So what's Jordan Peterson going to do? They say if he doesn't do that, they'll take away his license for being a psychological counselor. So what he's going to do is easy. He's going to say, take away my license. I don't care. I don't need it anymore. I'm a lecturer now. I give lectures all over the world. I don't need to be a psychologist, a qualified psychologist. Take it away. And he's doing it joyfully, not in pain, hopefully.
So anyway, Errol, I think let's just spend. Are you there? I think that must be time up. I'm just going to call Errol in to say goodbye to us and summarize if he can. And then it's been great and very informative. I've loved this.
There you are.
Okay, so Errol, just spend a minute or two summarizing because I think it's telling us also you belted it out. We've got it loud and clear, and we can re-listen and re-listen. Just let's summarize for just a minute or two, and then we're done. That's okay.
Look, what I'm really trying to share with people is this: we talked about the death rebirth process, the acceleration, intensification of the death, which means the collapse, the dissolution of the old world in every sense of the word, whether it's external or internal, and moving into the new. Moving into the new always means being a pioneer, means pioneering, initiating, which all pioneers have to do. If you're going to move into the new, you have to be a pioneer. Even if you're a small pioneer, you still have to be a pioneer.
Mm-hmm.
Because Aquarius comes into group energies. Aquarius is electricity, like its energy is electrical. That's why it's associated with computers and et cetera, et cetera. It's electrical energy. It's very fast. It's very intensified. I know I'm an Aquarian, so I know,
You can
know
speak.
how it works. In order for energy to enter people in Aquarius energy to be safe, you need a group, because then the energy enters a bit into each person in the group and not the whole schmeal into one person. So people should form, wherever they are, should start forming their little C groups, their little core groups. As I said, 3 people is the minimum, and then it can grow gradually to 5, to 7, to 9, eventually to 12, representing the 12 signs of the zodiac. That's why Jesus had 12 disciples. And you start to meet regularly once a week. Mm-hmm. And then maybe you organize other things if you want to. That's up to you. But you meet regularly once a week. You have good, healthy food. You have good energy, good communication, good sharing. You gradually feel that you become a friend, that you come to understand one another, you come to communicate, you come to support one another. And then gradually at some stage you decide what more can you do or would you like to do as a group to help other people. And if you do that, you'll create stabilization, you'll create a secure energy field where you are. As long as people are committed to the evolution of the group process, and open up and start balancing their inner life and their outer life, the spiritual life and the material life. Then whenever there's a problem, which I said before, it's so important because there will be many difficult decisions for people to make. Sometimes the rational mind just can't make the decision. It's too confusing. You meditate, you align to your higher self, to your soul. Telepathically, you establish communication, and you ask whatever question you have, which you need to be answered. That's why Christ said, ask, and you shall receive.
That's it.
Knock, and the door shall be open. And seek, and you shall find. Good to listen to Christ. He was a nice boy. And you'll get the answer either through telepathic communication right away, or through a visionary imprint, or through dreams, or through synchronicity. Those are the 4 ways you get it. Telepathically, through visionary impacts, through dreams, and or through synchronicity in your normal life. And people must do that regularly till it becomes like a habit pattern. At the moment you've got something you need to know which you're not clear about, immediately you go into meditation.
Good.
You don't have to go meditation in your house. You can be in a bloody shopping in Stanton, and you just go to the
sit
toilet,
down.
close the damn door, sit on the toilet seat, and enter into 5 minutes of meditation and ask the question, whatever the question might be, and just be receptive to the answer, and then you move out again, and always obey what you're told. In other words, don't go for complex things, yes or no. That's a good way to deal with it.
Yes.
Like with vaccines. Are vaccines safe or not? Just tell me yes or no. If you get yes, the vaccines are safe. If you get no, they're not safe, you don't do them. It's simple as that. That's
Okay, got it.
the will of your soul.
We got it.
And if people start living like that, then their life will change accordingly.
Well, Errol, as you said, there's nothing intricate. You don't need 6 degrees to understand all of this. It's basically simple. And the more simple you can make it, the better the ultimate outcome. And it's been fantastic, regrouping with you and, hearing many of the things you do repeat. And why wouldn't you repeat it? Because it is more of the same, moving in the same direction collectively. So I'm sure everybody else, there is a comment here. Let me just see what it's saying. Those of you who want to comment or ask Errol anything before he goes. There's a talk about doing other things like muscle testing and things like that. Whatever rows your boat, you get your answers. But it's not for everyone. So find your place and your way to get your answers. I think that's key. And look, I've run out of paper, so I'm going to be digesting all of this over the next couple of days, and I look forward to being more knowledgeable and aware of exactly the energies, both internally and externally. And just keep shifting to the higher gear, because That's big thing. So
and people should just realize that nations are also going through the death and rebirth process, not just individuals or humans per se. Nations as a whole are going through it, and as a result, governments are going through it, and leaders are going through it, and for South Africa, it's load shedding, or one manifestation is load shedding, and people need to try to understand that South Africa is going to move into the new sustainable renewable energy. The old energy system, which relies mainly on coal, by the way, Eskom's energy comes from coal, has to go. That's why we've got a crisis with Eskom.
So we're accepting, and we understand. Like I said, we're understanding. We've got knowledge. Knowledge is power. Just thank you for your beautiful insights as usual, and your way of presenting the information to all of us. I'm sure everybody, Vanessa's saying thanks to you. I'm sure everybody's just really, really thrilled with what you've done. And thank you so much. And to Emmy as well.
Great, lovely. Good.
Chat again
Thanks,
soon
everyone,
sometime.
and have a good one.
You too, Errol.
Just be aware over the next few days for the big Aquarius.
And we're going to.
And thanks to you, Jane, of course.
Okay,
always.
pleasure. I'll put your number on the group, so people who want to reach out to Errol to get their natal chart. It's always a great thing. Again, it's a guide, and it's you use it to meander through through the forest here. And those of you who want to lift the lid off the melting pot, come and see me, because it's happening like this at the moment, and where we can just actually leave and say goodbye to the old and take none of it into the new. I think that's very important. That's what I'm working on, clearing out the dustbin. I'm not taking any of this old into the new, the old that doesn't serve me, And people are saying to you, Errol, knowledge is power, and thank you. It was insightful and wonderful. Anna says, great info. Thank you. So go well. Have a great rest of the day, and we keep on it. Keep flying the flag. Bye, Errol. I think he's gone. All right. And thanks to everybody. It's an honor to have had you here again. And I think this brings in a lovely dimension, a fresh dimension to where we're going. And maximize your opportunities. See you all soon.